Hey everybody, Adam Savage, and I am in the hallowed halls of the American Museum of Natural History alongside curator Roger Benson. Roger, we were talking yesterday and I thought we should shoot a video about this. You were telling me why this is basically the coolest thing in this whole building.
Not just basically, this is, and not just in this building. This is just my opinion, okay?
Yeah, no.
But this is objectively the coolest fossil ever discovered in the whole history of paleontology and the world.
I'm here for that kind of stance. Tell me why it's the coolest.
Well, this isn't just a skull of T.rex, the giant predatory dinosaur. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. This is the skull of T.rex. So as in, there was a time when we didn't know very much about dinosaurs. T.rex hadn't been discovered yet. T.rex was first discovered from a few skeletons, partial skeletons, that were mainly the body in the early 1900s by Barnum Brown. And then in 1908, he found the skull. And this is it, the original T.rex skull.
This is the first time anyone had seen what a T.rex's head might have looked.
Yeah, and you've got to imagine what this is like. And a good way to do that is to imagine, Jurassic Park, but the T.rex has no head. And it was like revolutionary for the museum.
Yeah.
It was revolutionary for our understanding of dinosaurs and for popular interest, for the interest of the general public in dinosaurs. Scientists knew they had a giant predator by then, but they didn't know what the head looked like. And once you put the head on it, suddenly it's something that speaks to people and reaches people. And people became fascinated by dinosaurs around that time. And it's just like, this is a sacred place.
How long was it after this was discovered before they found the second T.rex skull?
Yeah, so for 40 years, this was the only T.rex skull that had been excavated by paleontologists in the whole world.
That's shocking.
Yeah. There's been a revolution of interest in dinosaurs again. And, lots of people are out there looking for dinosaurs. The rate of dinosaur discovery increased dramatically.
Yeah.
And, there's a bunch of mostly complete T.rex skeletons now.
But for 40 years, this was the only thing.
Right, exactly. And it's, T.rex at that time was the largest predatory land animal ever discovered. And that actually is more or less true up to the present day.
Wow.
So there are other giant predatory dinosaurs that are about as long as T.rex, but mostly their limbs are a bit spindlier and we don't think they quite weighed as much. So it's still number one, still the king.
That's amazing. And because it was alone for 40 years, it's unassailable that this is the reason we culturally love dinosaurs, I think.
Yeah, this is it. This is the spot. So, a lot of people think when they come around our dinosaur halls that probably most of what they're seeing is a replica of real dinosaur bones. But actually, most of what you're seeing at American Museum of Natural History is real dinosaur bones. There are places where there's restoration.
Sure.
But this is the real thing, 100%.
This morning, as we walked from the other side of this floor to here to get here, we passed through 3 or 4 halls equally or more packed with dinosaurs. And you were explaining they're all real.
Yeah, almost everything you see is real fossil bone. Everything you see is real.
Right,
in the sense that it might be a replica of a real object.
But the majority are actual dinosaurs.
Exactly. And when you see a whole skeleton in our museum, it's rare that the whole skeleton is real. But oftentimes, much of the skeleton you're seeing is the original fossil bone.
I was born in the 60s. In the 70s, I feel like there still wasn't a full agreement about how T.rexes walked. It feels like that has happened in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the great things about our hall is we have been collecting dinosaur fossils for, more than 120 years now. Yeah. And we have some really historical stuff, like this is a historical object. It's a revolutionary scientific object from the early 1900s. But we also have historical mounts of dinosaurs. So this is our T.rex skeleton mount, and that was revamped, and remounted with emerging understanding of dinosaurs and how they looked and how they held themselves. And you can see T.rex, this is like the Jurassic Park conception of T.rex, which we think is more or less accurate. Like the body is horizontal, the tail is held horizontally off the ground. But if you look just behind it, that's a close relative of T.rex, and that's a skeleton that was mounted, in the early 20th century.
Right.
And you can see it's completely different. The trunk is held at an angle, the tail's dragging along the ground. And one of the strongest pieces of evidence that they didn't walk like that is when we find their footprints, we don't find the mark of a tail dragging along the ground.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love what you discover by looking what you can't see.
Yeah, and you can also get it, detailed study of the bones. Sometimes sometimes paleontologists find a whole skeleton more or less in sort of life orientation. All of these pieces of evidence contribute to our understanding of like how were dinosaurs in life.
Amazing. Who was it that discovered the dinosaur?
Yeah, so this was discovered by this legendary paleontologist early in the history of North American paleontology, Barnum Brown. And he was basically going out into the West, you know, in the days when, you know, you couldn't just get on a plane.
It was weeks and weeks and weeks of hardship.
Like, in many places, you know, still like barely populated. And like going out and, you know, really toughing it and finding amazing stuff from like all ages of evolutionary history of vertebrates, dinosaurs, mammals, all kinds of things.
I mean, you've participated directly, I'm assuming, inadvertently also with dinosaur digs all over. His achievement seems astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, I recently read a book about Barnum Brown and I started to think I'm just not tough enough.
Like he goes out into the wilderness with plaster and comes back with this incredible gem.
Yeah, and these are times actually people are just developing the methods of how do we do a good job of collecting a dinosaur fossil in good condition. You know, like the tools are different, the way of like, you know, field jackets were just about like people were just establishing how to protect the fossil. The field jacket is the plaster across the country. Yeah, that's the structure we make out of plaster and burlap that encloses the fossil and the rock around it to bring it back to the museum, and then in the fossil prep lab, that's where they extract the fossil from the rock.
So did he do the plaster jacket on this to transport it back to the East Coast?
Yeah, by then they were making plaster jackets and doing a good job of it.
Oh, nice.
You know, 10 years earlier or so, people hadn't quite cracked it yet, and he even had sent fossils back to the museum from the West, and they'd arrived in like terrible shape, broken into pieces. But by now, like, this is cracked, like the technology of how you get a dinosaur fossil out of the field. And the truth is, you know, we use different tools now. You know, we use a wide range of tools that didn't exist then.
Right.
But the fact of excavation, making the field jacket, bringing things back to the museum is still pretty much as was
still exactly. It's the same procedure.
Yeah. More or less.
I love it when a problem gets solved and then just, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It strikes me, just the last thing I want to talk about is the teeth his dentition seems to be in incredible shape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and people love the teeth of T.rex, okay. So you can see, like, it's a big animal. I think, like, this head is so big when you get up close and personal with it. You know, if you're, like, a small enough person could curl up in a ball inside this head. You know, make T-Rex's life easy for you. So these are the teeth of an animal that's like the size of a really big elephant, but it wants to eat you. And people say, oh, the teeth are the size of bananas. That's not, you'll see that that's not quite true.
Not quite true, a small banana.
Well, if you include the root of the tooth, you know, where it inserts into the bone, that bit is about as long as the bit that sticks out. So the root plus the bit that you see, plus the tooth, that's the size of a banana.
Crazy.
So it's reasonable to say T-Rex's tooth, the bit that sticks out, is about half the size of a banana.
Okay, you've convinced me. I agree. This is the coolest object in the history of paleontology.
Absolutely. It's just my opinion, but objectively the coolest fossil ever discovered.
Roger, thank you so much. It's really amazing. Thank you so much for watching that video. If while watching any of my videos you like any of the t-shirts that you see me wearing, well, you can go buy them. And there's two places you can get them. First, you can go to tested-store.com, a web address that my crew laughs is one of the hardest things for me to remember in my whole brain. But now they've given me a second URL. You can now go to adamsavage.com and buy any of the t-shirts you see me wearing on this channel. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff there too. Thanks.